look at that, miles up. Oh, it's nearly taken someone out in the stands. That was a flat six right under the stand there, the George Giffen stand, happy for the members, and it went like a rocket. Well, we get to 24.
In today's volume of CRIQAZI Diaries, we have a very special guest, Neil Chakravarti from San Diego, USA, originally from Hyderabad, India, who also has a podcast on football called Soccer Comic Rant. Do check it out in the link in the description. And today we'll be talking about Pakistan's narrow defeat to England at Old Trafford and England's consequential 2-1 series victory. We'll also talk about how the teams fare going into the future, especially the T20 World Cup. So let's go. So Neil, welcome to the show. How are you doing? How's life going on?
Thanks, man. Really nice to connect with you and come on this podcast. It's good to speak cricket. I've been, as you mentioned, I've been doing a lot of football, soccer in this country podcast. So it's good to speak cricket after a change. It's a sport I follow a lot, so it's good to speak about it. Pehle to I'd want to say Eid Mubarak to you.
Eid Mubarak, bro. Thank you.
Everybody who's watching. I hope it is a good day for everybody. Game bhi kafi sahi thi. I mean, I understand that the result probably didn't pan out the way you'd wanted, but this was the kind of game you want. If you want to take your time out and watch a game, this is a really high quality international game.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, let's just jump right into it.
Right.
I want to talk about Pakistan's batting effort first and the approach. So Rizwan and Babar, they've consistently gotten us runs at the top of the order. Magar dono jo hai na, there's the catch-22 over here. They're both your best batsmen, so you want them to play the most amount of deliveries and kind of want both of them to stay till the end in a T20 innings. And on the flip side, none of them are super aggressive batsmen. They play proper cricketing shots versus lofted shots. I mean, Rizwan has a few aerial shots, but zyadatar safe cricket khelte hain, and they get you to 50 in the power play, which also Pakistan got today. At the end of 6 overs, Pakistan was 50 for 1. Wahan se phir middle order thoda collapse kiya. We'll go to the middle order, but first I want to ask you, a lot of teams these days in modern cricket, they don't really take that circumspect approach in the first 6 overs in the power play. They try to maximize their risk taking like England does. So what do you think Pakistan should do in this scenario? Should they persist with Rizwan and Babar up top and keep going with this method? Or should they try maybe a Fakhar Zaman to open and he can just go gung-ho? And even if Pakistan lose, let's say 3 wickets in the power play, if they can score it around 10 and over, would that be better for them? What do you think?
I think, so you're talking about two different options, right? Either go with the same approach or have the same and change the resources, change the combination that you're going with. Or maybe ask these guys to bat a little differently. So wo kitna tak possible hai ki nahi, wo you never know, because these are experienced batsmen. It's really not that possible to completely change your game in the middle of your career. But I think approach ki jitni baat hai, if you look at the successful international T20 teams, right? England, West Indies, New Zealand, I think it's becoming very clear ki approach change karna padega, because तो जो conventional logic होती थी, जो हम लोग बचपन से सुने आ रहे हैं कि you take your time, give the bowlers the respect you deserve. Obviously T20 में काफी scale down है. Maybe you're talking about an over or two, but that over or two can actually make the difference at the end, because the way a lot of the data is going, that it's as of the pitch is going to change. It's not going to become any easier. Over the course of 20, it was just such a short game, right? And agar power hitting karni hai, then you maximize your resources. You don't worry about having these wickets in hand, because you actually don't end up using all your wickets anyways in a T20. So I think you have to treat every ball equally, not the overs that come at the beginning differently from the middle overs versus the end overs. जो हमारी conventional thinking है, even in ODIs, right? But I think right now the way modern day international T20 cricket is going is that you literally start treating every ball as an opportunity to go for a boundary.
See, I'm really on the fence with this, because Pakistan, two undisputed batsmen that we have right now who are definitely at the top of the game are Babar and Rizwan. But then again, they play safe cricket, and I'm personally satisfied with 50 odd in the power play if we don't lose a wicket and we give a platform for the rest of the batsmen to come out and express themselves. But वो बात आ जाती है ना कि जैसा आज का गेम था, wicket जो है turn करना शुरू हो गई. So when the ball is hard in the power play, that's the time you maximize, and that's exactly what Jason Roy did. So वहाँ पे इसलिए I'm on the fence, like क्या पता है बेहतर होता अगर फखर open कर लेता. So this is one of those things that even it's giving me a headache as well, and I'm not too certain how Pakistan should go about it. But yeah, I guess they've got 5 T20s versus the West Indies coming up, so maybe they should experiment a bit.
And also, it's not just the openers, right? I think right now we have to kind of club the top 3 together. That's literally the same batting position. Because if you're actually going for it, what you'll see is the wicket will fall, and then the number 3 guy has to kind of play in the same way. So I understand the point that these are your 2 best batsmen, and you have to give them the maximum opportunity to play 120 balls. But I guess another way of looking at it is, are they your 2 best boundary hitters?
ये भी तो हो सकता है ना कि आप एक पीछे रख लो,
maybe split them up. Split them up. Yeah.
And then when one of them gets out, you send the other guy in so that they can at least go on till the end and hold the fort from one end. And they still do consistently score runs. ऐसा नहीं कि बहुत slow नहीं खेलते. मगर हाँ, ये एक area है जहाँ पे management will have to go back to the drawing board, I believe, and they were convinced that this is working. But on pitches like this, especially, जहाँ पे it gets harder to bat as the game goes on, I think maybe a different approach might be useful. You mentioned top 3. We have Sohaib Maqsood playing at number 3. Now, as you would know, Pakistan cricket is not spoiled for choice when it comes to batsmen. And Sohaib Maqsood had a fantastic PSL with Multan Sultans at number 3. Came into the team and in his presser said that I want to be playing at number 3. मैं वहीं खेलना चाहता हूँ. उसको chance मिला, but he hasn't quite delivered. And he's a hard-hitting batsman, no doubt. आपको quick runs दे सकता है. But or I'm not too sold on him because of the other things that he brings to the game. He's a little lethargic in the field. He's not very agile. He had a catching opportunity today जो उसने attempt भी नहीं की. Or runner best नहीं है. So these are some of the problems that I have with him. He sometimes looks completely at bay versus spin, as you saw today. But yeah, these are some of the problems I have with Sohaib Maqsood. But like अब दिया chance तो मैं कहता हूँ West Indies वाली series अभी 3 पे खिलाते रहो. So that is an area of concern for me.
Yeah, I mean, if you see again, lethargic in the field and stuff, I think it's becoming an issue right now because you see all these drop catches and stuff. But still, if you look for pound for pound, so सबसे ज़्यादा value हो सकती है Pakistan cricket को at this point from a player. If he can actually be that hard-hitting batsman at number 3, then you can kind of excuse some of the other things. I think अभी मसला ये आ रहा है कि question mark आ रही है क्योंकि he's not performing really well in his primary role. So I guess for that, you have 5 T20s against. You have to give him more chances because अभी किसको लाओगे मतलब you're kind of again going to be starting from scratch then.
एक चीज आप ये कर सकते हो कि आप फखर को 3 पे ले आओ क्योंकि वो तो वैसे भी टॉप ऑर्डर है और फिर सोहेब मकसूद को 4 पे ले आओ तो खैर ये चीजें वही बात है सोचनी पड़ेंगी मैनेजमेंट को बट क्या people will say कि टॉप ऑर्डर ने runs enough quickly enough नहीं किए but I think the middle order really couldn't get going. Both सोहेब मकसूद and मोहम्मद हफीज lost the wicket very cheaply. बहुत गंदी बॉल्स पे छक्कों वाली बॉलों पे आउट हुए हैं and then फखर got going a bit but then मोइन अली के खिलाफ तो फखर से कुछ हो ही नहीं रहा था. So no one really kicked on with Rizwan. अगर कोई एक आधा बंदा पार्टनरशिप लगाया था पाकिस्तान 170 तक पहुंच जाता ना. I think we were about 15 runs 10-15 runs short. वहां तक पहुंच जाते. I think they had this game in the bag.
Right. But you saw at the end of the day, right? It was still a very close game. So मतलब it was probably a matter of another over or 2. अगर उस टाइम पे especially the Fakhar Zaman's wicket I think was a very crucial turning point and जब spinners आ गए थे and he was doing well. I thought that was the partnership that हम लोग बात भी कर रहे थे like 160 at a bare minimum which Pakistan should be able to reach. So it wasn't that the innings completely had no structure and was not going anywhere. It was just those critical moments as I said like I think at the top Sohail Maqsood and Babar Azam, you see 24 out of 25 balls. That really is not a luxury at T20 level that you can take. And I mean, वो अगर middle order में if people have to take their chances, but also does it really? I feel like the way T20 is going right now, ये bilateral series का ना the whole point is to gear yourself towards the next जो वर्ल्ड टूर्नामेंट है. So yeah, you lost this 1-1, but if this makes you a better team to get to the semi-finals and win the World T20, Pakistan fan really it probably doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, I mean, I say this in every episode, and today I felt again that we were a batsman short. या तो आप अगर हसनैन से bowling नहीं करानी थी in hindsight, या आप फहीम अशरफ खिला सकते थे, who also can bat, या आप सरफराज खिला सकते थे, and in an ideal world, आप शोएब मलिक खिला सकते हो यार. He's one of 4 batsmen in T20 cricket who has 10,000 runs. He's fit. I don't think he's done much wrong to be outside of the team. So yeah, those are the issues I have with the batting right now.
I think Shoaib Malik ka काफी interesting है, right? Like, because he's always around, like, and everybody knows. ऐसा कोई mystery तो नहीं है, like as you're saying, like with
नहीं, और specifically, sorry, I'm interrupting you. Spin को बहुत अच्छा खेलता है यार. Coming down the ground, spin पे पक्का छक्का है उसका. इतना short छक्का आपकी पूरी टीम में कोई नहीं spinner को देता. So I really feel like we missed him this game or this series actually. And then वही, आज you were a batsman short. शायद एक और batsman होता तो बाकी जो batsman है ज़्यादा fearlessly खेलते. खैर, who knows?
वो difference हमने देखा, right, with England. They had, well, unke case mein it's not just one extra batsman, it's probably a couple of extra batsmen, so they can keep going. I think one luxury that you get if you have those extra batsmen is that jo hum log dekh rahe the middle order mein, or even in the top order mein, you don't really have to be cautious because tumko pata hai ki piche hai people who can literally bat the same way that the top order. Talent utna hi hai, the ability to cross the boundary is there all the way through that batting order.
अच्छा, इसमें ना जरा मेंटालिटी की भी बात आ जाती है. अब ओवेन मॉर्गन को क्रेडिट देना पड़ेगा, this fire brand of cricket that he's promoted and advocated for, कि बस go and go gung ho from the word go. अगर पाकिस्तान let's say फखर से ओपन कर लेती है या शर्जील से ओपन कर लेती है, I think तब भी इनसे नहीं होएगा क्योंकि मेंटालिटी इनको चेंज करनी पड़ेगी. You can't change that sort of stuff overnight, और इस पे काफी काम होना चाहिए. And I just feel like this management is a bit defensive in their approach, and that's where we're maybe suffering a bit.
Yeah, I think that comes down to, I don't think a batsman goes out there and thinks on his own that, okay, this is how I want to build an innings. I'm sure there are instructions that are coming in. आजकल तो इतनी data है, इतनी analysis है cricket में that you are specifically told that this is how you जो उन लोग की training भी होती है, they're literally hitting 6 balls. They're practicing to hit 6 balls out of the ground when they're practicing for a T20 game. So I think you're right that if team management is not being very insistent on something like this, तो आप कितने भी शायद players change कर लो, वो नहीं होगा. And in fact, अगर seriously, if this is a real issue, then maybe that's the reason why you're not seeing that many of these power hitters coming into the Pakistan team, because team management is closely connected with the selectors, and they probably don't see the value of somebody like if a young batsman who probably not great technique wise, probably doesn't have the wherewithal to stay at the wicket, but he can add that X factor with the bat. They're probably not pushing their names that much.
Yeah, I mean, I guess एक ये भी चीज़ है कि पाकिस्तान के जो power hitters आ रहे हैं, they don't seem to have the other gear. I feel like to be a successful batsman, you should know how to consolidate and hit big. और वो वाला एक जो player है ना, हम शायद miss कर रहे हैं इस वक्त.
That balance.
Yes, that good balance. But खैर, I think we spent enough time on the batting. Let's move on to the next segment. In this next segment, I want to talk about Pakistan's bowling and the turning points in the game. Neil, मेरे हिसाब से 3 major turning points थे. अब आप जौन सा वाला भी उठा लो उसको, like it could hold the same value. एक तो ठीक है, पाकिस्तान ने शुरुआत में इतना तेज नहीं खेला, but ultimately when they got to 50 in the 6 overs, I was like, ठीक है, कुछ ना कुछ कर लेंगे. But the death overs, I feel Pakistan couldn't get enough runs. That was one. Chris Jordan was amazing with his Yorkers, phenomenal bowling. Hassan Ali के बैट के नीचे से निकल रही थी हर बॉल. और 155 वही, I think we were 10-15 runs short. अगर आखिरी कुछ ओवरों में लग जाते छक्के तो एक तो मेरे ख्याल से वहां पाकिस्तान मैच जीत सकता था. दूसरी जो टर्निंग पॉइंट है, I would say, is Pakistan's fielding. I think they were really pathetic in the field. Once again, ये ground fielding का बहुत मसला आ रहा है, और आज तो catching भी इतनी great नहीं थी. You saw Sohaib Maqsood, he could have gone for that catch, he didn't. And then the third one I feel is the captaincy. Now I think Babar Azam, अगर आप पूरी गेम को देखो ना, तो इतनी इतनी बुरी कैप्टनसी नहीं थी, मगर कुछ एरियाज पे आई फेल्ट लाइक ही मिस्ड अ ट्रिक. एक तो जेसन रॉय बहुत अग्रेसिवली खेल रहा था. ही सेट द टोन फॉर इंग्लैंड. तो we all thought he took the game from Pakistan. वो तो पाकिस्तान ने कम बैक कर लिया, but Shadab drew his edge. There was no slip. So I don't feel he was attacking enough. और फिर जो वैसे तो उसने स्पिनर्स बड़े अच्छे यूज कर लिए, but then that 18th over जो हसन अली को इसने दिया when we had 29 runs to defend, वहां पे I feel like शादाब खान का बनता था. He didn't even bowl Shadab out. He'd only given 22 runs in his 3 overs, taken 1 wicket. इंग्लैंड से नहीं खेला जा रहा था, और वहां पे I feel like you need to be a bit more aggressive. I felt like Babar was a bit more defensive in his captaincy. उसने सोचा कि स्पिनर को पड़ जाएगी तो हसन के साथ जाता हूं. तो वहां पे I think we lost the plot. That being the biggest turning point in my opinion. Then again, you could argue कि 10-15 रन और होते तो पाकिस्तान जीत जाती, फील्डिंग बेहतर होती तो पाकिस्तान जीत जाती. So what do you think was the biggest turning point out of these three?
So I think out of these three, I want to touch upon the spinner thing, because ये मैंने बहुत बार देख चुका हूँ मैं कि especially subcontinental captains, when it comes to the death, I feel it's also a mentality thing, because we feel like we guys play spin so well and we can clear the ground at will. We sometimes we don't trust that extra over or spin in the death overs. But if you look at the option Babar had in front of him, Hassan Ali is one of your premium path bowlers, and he has a good track record of bowling at the depth. I mean, he could have gone for Shadab, especially because Shadab was causing a lot of trouble when he was bowling. So I guess that was a wrong decision, but I also feel that over the way Hassan was bowling, I didn't understand why he had to go over, switch.
Good point.
Over the wicket, because जो batsman है Ian Morgan की, he's an experienced. We know how he bats. And you're kind of making the job easier for him by giving him that natural angle. जो तुम्हारे पास advantage है, with the angle you bowl from, but you're kind of taking over your advantage and giving it to Morgan. नहीं तो over, wouldn't have been a bad over. It was 7 runs on 5 balls. If you just got if it was 8 or 9, that could have been the difference. But he kind of made things easier for Morgan there.
Yeah, I agree. That's a very good point you bring up. Why did Hassan switch sides? Owen Morgan is always been very leg side heavy. तो आपने उसकी arc में क्यों करानी है ball? But again, like you mentioned, I think it was a decent over, 4 really good deliveries, and then 2 really rubbish ones. Yeah. But yeah, तो वहीं पे मेरे ख्याल से अगर शादाब आ जाता तो ठीक है. अगर पाकिस्तान हार जाता ना शादाब को वहाँ ओवर देकर, तो मुझे इतना बुरा भी नहीं लगता. But I feel this is a tactical blunder by Babar Azam in my opinion. वहाँ पे जरा aggressive होना चाहिए था. कहता शादाब, go do your thing. उनसे वैसे भी नहीं लग रही थी spin के against. They were all at sea. And I feel like we lost the game over there more so. Captaincy again, overall Babar Azam की बुरी नहीं थी, but I feel like he was a bit defensive in his approach. अब मुझे ये नहीं पता है, is this trickling down? Is this influence trickling down from the management, or is this Babar Azam's own philosophy? ये अब तो हमें नहीं पता, but I think that was the main turning point. बाकी of course you can argue 10-15 रन ज्यादा होते हैं, और वो हो भी सकते थे. England bowled fantastically well at the death. Chris Jordan only gave 5 runs in his last over, and then again fielding अगर आप अच्छी नहीं करोगे तो you'll fall short of the opposition more often than not, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, जैसे मैंने starting में कहा, in T20 the odds are loaded against you as the bowling side. कि तुमको जो 10 wicket, usually 50 over, the batting side has to last 50 overs with those 10 wickets. They now just have to last 20. And if you drop catches, you're making 10 into 13 or 14. So drop catches have an exponential impact on the game.
Even in the last over, right? Hassan dropped Morgan off his own bowling. क्या पता वो पहला कैच पकड़ लेता तो कुछ फर्क होता. मगर खैर जहाँ इतनी criticism कर रही पाकिस्तान.
Captaincy के बारे में, one thing that you said, I just wanted to ask you, do you feel कि वो है कि it's trickling down from management, the defensive mindset? Because I feel अभी हम लोग एक situation में है as a sport in cricket, that the influence that we have seen from captains for the longest time is kind of going, that percentage is going away from the captain to the backroom staff, to the coaches. So what do you feel like, because Babar is also a new captain, right?
Yeah, he is a very young captain. He hasn't captained much outside of the international arena as well. I think, dekho, when you look at the other things, he's your most consistent performer. Fitness uski aap hai, great example for the boys. Rally acha karta hai apne men ko, but he's not a natural born leader in my opinion. But again, you can work on these things, I feel. I don't think Kohli was a great captain when he started, and he really grew into that role. So I feel Babar can do as well. वैसे भी अभी तक तो कोहली को बड़ा अच्छा follow कर रहे हैं. And I feel like with time ये सीखेगा. Hopefully this is a learning curve for him. But I just like to see him be a bit more aggressive, and I felt like I saw that lacking today. मगर खैर जहाँ इतनी criticism कर ली है बाबर की captaincy की और पाकिस्तान की fielding की, I feel like there were some positives. They bowled really well. Minus that Shaheen Shah Afridi over जो शुरू में 16 के लिए चला गया, and we didn't see him again anyway. And then Hasnain we didn't even see bowl. I think Hassan Ali wasn't bad. He was bowling really well. वो दो पड़ गई उसको. And I think the spinners, maybe minus Usman Qadir, उसको जरा देर में उसने line पकड़ी अपनी. But I think
it took a while.
I think Imad, Hafiz, Shadab, they all really did a good job, and Pakistan came back into this game out of nowhere. It looked done and dusted. और वापस आए. I think it was still a really good fight. I enjoyed the game. And I hope their spirits aren't too क्या कहते हैं, deflated going into the West Indies series.
Yeah, the way England batted in those first 10 overs, ये matches ना last over तक जाती नहीं है usually. So I think they get these wrapped up much earlier. यहाँ पे I think even England के side से the way David Mullen batted, I don't think we are going to see him a lot.
He's the number one T20 batsman.
but you know, I think the if you see the way Livingstone has come up in this series, or unke thode players are not in the team right now, his strike rate also was something. जैसे हम इंग्लैंड पाकिस्तान के बैट्समैन के बारे में बात कर रहे थे, I think on the England side that is also something that played into the Pakistani spinners' hands. That you allow them to get back into the game. But बहुत अच्छी bowling की. I think surprising thing, the way Hafiz is bowled, he hasn't bowled in the series, right? So he still has it.
I feel like he should use him more. Babar should use him more, especially with the World Cup being in UAE. Khair, let's move on to the next section. In this segment, I'd like to talk about the tactical battle England won today with their batting approach, which we've seen very consistently for them. And I just want to talk about the team in general going into the T20 World Cup later in this year. So, Neil, I feel like the tactical battle that England won today was realizing that the ball is hard at the start of the innings, and they just went gung-ho at the start. They didn't care much about the wickets. That has been their template for quite a while. But that Jason Roy innings, I feel like that's the difference between both sides, isn't it? Because the rest of the batsmen looked a bit nervy, a bit cautious, but Roy just looked like he was playing on a different pitch.
Yeah, I think he kind of took the game away from Pakistan the way he started, and that's what I was saying, like it's surprising that it even lasted that long. He just हिसाब से batting कर रहा था. And I think in the past he's been a little circumspect against spin. But today he first took on the fast bowlers, and that's why the spinners had to come on a little earlier. And then even against spin, sweep, reverse sweep, I think उसने कुछ 3-4 टाइप के sweep खेल लिए थे.
अच्छा, ये एक चीज क्रेडिट देनी पड़ेगी. England really reverse sweep the ball well. जब they're in a pickle, कहीं ना कहीं sweep, reverse sweep कर fine चौका दे देते हैं. कई दफा आज इस तरह हुआ है, Pakistan were bowling a really good over, and then they just managed to get that one boundary off the over, and they released the pressure. So you've got to give them credit for their approach.
I actually feel like they probably must have. ये तो I think this is an unfortunate thing in cricket that हमको इतना as fans, as viewers इतना पता नहीं चलता. But it would be really interesting too if we can get some transparency into the kind of data analysis these guys do. The backroom staff of some team like England does, because I'm sure there is these choice of shots are not happening in isolation. I'm pretty sure in लोगों ने they have scoped it out कि you have to use the 360-degree field, especially when off spinner angle से ball कर रहा है, तुमको ये angle में खेलना चाहिए, because you could see like there was a deliberate attempt to put the bowlers out of their line. So in terms of the tactic, the basic template as an approach, as you said, I think that's been their approach since the 2015 World Cup in both limited overs and T20s. And तो इनकी तो मतलब बैटिंग खत्म ही नहीं होती है. तो मतलब तुम खेलते रहो फिर you know just keep hitting. Like I think the biggest example of that today was Livingstone's innings. It was just 2 deliveries.
Yeah.
But that is actually a very valuable T20 innings.
I feel like
you hit a 6 and you get out.
I feel like the approach is to always keep the run rate in check and don't care about the wickets, and then they play a lineup which complements that. End tak unki batting jati hai. Just talking about the team in general, you know, I feel like there's going to be a bit of a selection conundrum now. You've seen players come up in this series. Liam Livingstone, 147 runs at a strike rate of 216, hits such a long ball. He hits it a country mile away और पक्की शॉटें देता है. वो आज भी आया है. Such an impactful innings, right? Came, hit a 6, got out. I think he deserves man of the series. He's a fantastic find for England. And when you consider that this team doesn't even have Ben Stokes playing or Joe Root playing, Jofra Archer, Sam Curran, I think Sam Curran is also a big miss. Inke baghair bhi they look like such a strong team, and that's something you've seen in England now. The bench strength is solid. Very similar to India, of course. Unne bhi aaj they won against Sri Lanka against playing a second string 11. So I think these two teams really have it. They've got it all sorted out as far as bench strength is concerned, and I think England will face some selection problems picking a team for this T20 World Cup, even though they look in fantastic shape.
Yeah, I think somebody like Livingstone has kind of the way you select yourself for a big tournament. I think he has done that. So यहाँ पे काफी मैं ट्विटर पे भी देख रहा था, like a lot of people were like, क्योंकि लिविंगस्टोन काफी लेट आया था बैटिंग ऑर्डर में, so there were काफी गैर मच रही थी कि ये आ क्यों नहीं रहा है. So you know, very similar to Euros में देखा होगा, like there was such a clamor for Jack Grealish to start playing, और लोगों को समझ नहीं आता कि उसको खिला क्यों नहीं रहा है team management. So I think Livingstone could be the Jack Grealish of England cricket for this, you know, this season. And yeah, I mean they have it's a good problem to have. अगर तुमको Ben Stokes जैसे प्लेयर के बारे में सोचना पड़ रहा है कि उसको लाए कि नहीं लाए, तो you know that's a great problem to have. And
all rounders की लाइन लगी हुई है. I think UAE में तो they will love that Moeen Ali Adil Rashid combo, and then I think they should also play Parkinson. I think he was missed today, और UAE में तो बड़ा काम आ सकता है. So I think they'll be a very formidable opponent in this World T20, especially given that India and Pakistan aren't in their groups, who are supposed to be your best teams in those conditions. But on the flip side, they did look uncomfortable against spin, didn't they? So from a batting perspective, maybe it doesn't work out the way they plan it in the UAE.
Yeah, that's possible, but I don't think they will change anything. Matlab, you know, the amount of things that they've had to go through, I think इनकी अभी बन गई है ये mindset कि हम you know we'll take the weakest link out. They'll probably, you know, get somebody who's more of a specialist against spin. You know, somebody like, in fact, Stokes and Root are those players who have a very proficient game against spin, and they'll just plug those holes. I don't think they're going to change their gung-ho batting style at all. So, but again, it's challenging, but then that's where teams like India, Pakistan, maybe Sri Lanka, you know, who have a good spin attack come into the play. क्योंकि just because they are doing it this way and it's successful, हम तो हाथ खड़े करके नहीं बोल सकते ठीक है तुम जीत लो World Cup. So you know, the opponent teams will also have to come out with some way to constantly keep putting the pressure on what looks like 100% foolproof batting lineup.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, they can definitely afford to take the risks, और मुझे भी नहीं लगता वो कुछ भी बदलेंगे. But I think इतनी भी कोई crazy team नहीं होगी इनकी UAE conditions में. We saw them struggle today in the second half of the innings, and I think that might be a factor in the World T20 as well. But overall, of course, England cricket is in great health, especially the white ball teams. And I think they will definitely be a team to beat. I do expect them to make the semi-finals for sure.
Yeah, I mean, काफी interesting होने वाली है, as you said, like, you know, India, Pakistan in the same group. वो तो उनको पता है कि ICC क्यों कराती है ऐसे.
उनको पैसे भी तो बनाने हैं ना.
उनको India Pakistan game तो चाहिए. Like, they are not gonna. जब से 2007 का World Cup हुआ है, where they left it to chance that it didn't happen. तब से they don't take that risk. They wanna make sure that they have that marquee game. And सही है, you know, it's gonna be T20 में ऐसा है कि like a lot of teams are good, so you don't see any you know, a lot of mismatches and stuff. So yeah, it should be good. And your point is right, you know, UAE that, you know, the venues in UAE should kind of normalize the advantage that England seems to have over other teams. but I think other teams also have to kind of raise their game and get to that level of batting 20 overs. Like every ball is exactly the same.
Okay, so for this final segment, I just want to talk about Pakistan as a T20 team going forward. Especially they've got that big 5-match T20 series versus the West Indies in the West Indies coming up. A very, very formidable opposition to face, the defending champions in the format. And they've got a lot of senior pros in Chris Gale, Dwayne Bravo, Kieran Pollard, Lendl Simmons, and some great youngsters in Shimron Hetmeyer, Evan Lewis. Bowling thodi halki hai, but they've got an upcoming leggy in Hayden Walsh. I think it's going to be a cracker of a series, and Pakistan are a bit low on confidence. I would have liked them to experiment a bit. I want them to experiment with their batting order. Seems like Pakistan don't have their best 11 quite jot down right now on paper, and they're a little confused. Kya combination khilana chahiye? Kitne batsmen, kitne bowlers, kitne all-rounders? I feel like they should take this opportunity to figure that out, but at the same time, I fear अब क्योंकि ये सीरीज हार गए हैं, सब पे प्रेशर आ गया है, मैनेजमेंट पे प्रेशर आ गया है, मीडिया का प्रेशर आएगा, they'll go for the safe route and try to persist without making much changes, and I think that might prove to be counterproductive going forward.
Yeah, I mean I hope they don't get a lot of criticism for this series because you won one game and the other game it could literally have been Pakistan winning 2-1 the series, which when you're going up against a team like England in this form, it's not that bad a result. Kafi positives hai ye series se, but as you said, like your next opponent they also have a very powerful template when it comes to T20s. So it's not gonna be easy. I think jo learnings hai about the batting approach, the combination of the bowlers, you have to fix it. Maybe it's lesser time to fix it before the series, but maybe use those those 5 games to fine tune everything and find that right combination of the batting lineup.
I mean, 5 T20s I think is more than enough. Upar se conditions very similar to the UAE, which will help them. I would like to see maybe Fakhar Zaman at 3. I want to maybe they could try Sarfaraz at 6 potentially. Agar aapne spinners ke saath hi jana hai, wahan pe bhi aap ja sakte ho spinners ke saath. So he's a good player of spin. You could have him in the middle order kyunki middle order zara fragile nazar aa raha hai. Maybe have Shoaib Maqsood at 4. I would like to see Hafiz bowl more. I would really like to see Mohammad Nawaz in the team. He, I think, deserves to get a game maybe in क्या कहते हैं Imad Wasim's place, and then persist with Usman Qadir. ठीक है, आज शुरू में इतना अच्छा नहीं था, but then in his final few overs, I think he really found his line. And
I think Qadir was going well because it seemed like this is a player that who can actually make the difference in a when it comes to like taking wickets.
And he has a very deceptive googly, or West Indian players, aren't the best against spin. So I think Qadir, Shadab should definitely bowl in tandem, maybe throw a Nawaz in there, Hafiz se bhi overs karao. I think that's the template they should go with, and maybe experiment with their batting order a bit.
I think definitely if you can nail down that batting order, that should be like the biggest priority right now in front of the team. Because bowling ka aisa bhi hai na, like you're always like conditions come into the picture. You might have a certain plan when you start the game, but then just aaj after he was pretty much not used today. So uska utna like you kind of like have to constantly keep thinking on the spot. But if you have a template of a batting lineup that can consistently get you beyond 180, I think that's pretty much what you need. Especially when you're playing against West Indies, because West Indies bhi aise hi khelne wali hai, they're going to keep going for it. In fact, I won't be surprised the way West Indies, मेरे को तो ऐसा लग रहा है West Indies and England are खींच रही है पूरे rest of the world को कि तुम ऐसे ही खेलो सब लोग. तो I won't be surprised if they come up with some really crazy tactics, like if a player on a certain day is having a like a slow start, you just retire them out. I mean, हमने ये देखा नहीं है, but there's nothing in the rules that tell you that you can't do it.
That's a very interesting thought.
Yeah, I really won't be surprised in the next काफी spirit of the game और ये सब का तूफान उड़ेगा, but I'm pretty sure somebody in the next 2 or 3 years will try this thing.
Maybe on the next show I'll ask you how you feel about mankading. Anyway, Chalo, I think like it's a very formidable opponent, West Indies. I think it's great practice for Pakistan going into a World Cup later on in the year. Or Dusa, I think it's a very 50-50 series. Like West Indies be hot and cold type team. Even though they're in fantastic form, they're really swept aside Australia right now in their 5-match T20 series. But yeah, I don't think Pakistan are out of it. I hope they're a little fearless. They go with a few experiments and they really nail down that combination, because I think Pakistan jab kar leti hai na wo combination nail down, that's when you see that they really galvanize their 11, and then tournament mein to hamesha they're either going to be big time flops or they're going to be contenders to win it.
Yeah, I mean they are a tournament team. Like, you know, a lot of teams have faced that and gone out to Pakistan in those big tournaments.
Okay, folks, that's a wrap for Volume 9. If you, of course, enjoyed this show, please like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that bell icon below in order to be notified about my latest videos. Of course, if you have anything to ask us, please tweet your questions at DefMango using the hashtag AskCriqAZI. Thank you very much for taking out the time today, Neil. And guys, do check out his podcast, which is in the description below, called Soccer Comic Rant. Qazi off the mic.
Have a look at that. Miles up. Oh, it's nearly taken someone out of the stands. That was a flat 6 right under the stand there, the George Giffen stand, up into the members, and it went like a rocket.